Welcome to Go Lurk Yourself, a podcast about streaming and video games on the internet. I am Cherry Cake, and this week I am by myself. I don't have my sidekick. Crunky is on holiday, or as you Americans say, taking a vacation down in Florida. So you've just got the sound of my, hopefully, lovely voice this week. Just for future reference, this is not going to be a permanent thing. This is just a one-off, while Crunky takes some, I guess, well-deserved R&R. But the format is going to be the same. I'm still going to cover what I've been playing this week and what's been happening in the game industry this week. And there's been quite a lot going on. But first, we'll get to that. In case you didn't see the title of this podcast, Nintendo did a recent direct on Pokemon Sword and Shield. And I will talk a little bit about E3 and possibly some of the things that we might see. Firstly, I'll just chat a little bit about what I have been playing this week. Actually, not just this week, for the past, I think, 3 weeks. When I was off work, when I had my motorcycle accident, I was bored, as you do, because you can't really do anything. So I was looking through the Switch store, and I found that the Switch was something that I was able to use without putting too much strain on my shoulder. And as I was looking through it, I noticed that Final Fantasy VII had actually been released for the Switch, and I'd completely forgotten about this. And if you guys don't know, Final Fantasy VII is one of my all-time favourite games. I remember playing this when I was a kid. I think I was like maybe 11 or 12 when it first got released, maybe a bit younger. Maybe actually younger than that, I can't actually remember. But I do remember playing it as a little girl and dipping my toes into the world of video games. So I figured it would be quite a good game to get lost in, because it's essentially a JRPG, and they're pretty in depth, and it's the Final Fantasy series as well, so there's a lot going on in that game. I eventually actually bear in mind, I injured my shoulder probably about 2 months ago now, and I've only just gotten around to playing Final Fantasy. The thing I find that I do is I venture onto game stores and buy things and then just never play them. But I'm happy about buying them. I either forget that I've got them, or there's always something else that I want to play, but I want that game as well. It's an interesting one. Anyway, I got around to playing it, and I am absolutely loving it this time. I don't think I've actually played it since I was a kid. I may have played like 20-30 minutes here and there. I do actually have it on my Steam account as well for the PC, so I do have it on there as well. But I think I may have streamed that maybe once, and not for very long. But playing it on the Switch is actually a really, really good move. It's so much fun to play on it. There's a couple of differences with this release that they've gone for on the Switch. I was a bit apprehensive at first with these inclusions. So what they've done is they've now included the ability to speed up time by 3, so you can triple the speed of the game. You can also make it so you don't have any random encounters, and you can also put on permanent limit breaks, which, when I first heard the release, the announcement of putting these things into the game for the Switch release, I don't know, I was in the fence with it, because I think me and Roserka were talking about this, and we were saying that anyone that's new to the Final Fantasy series and they're playing Final Fantasy VII for the first time, and they have these options available to them, it might detract from the overall experience of playing Final Fantasy VII. But honestly, I don't know if this is just because I know I've played it before and I know what happens, so I'm not too bothered about it. But honestly, it hasn't affected my gameplay in any real sense. I haven't used the triple speed particularly, because I do enjoy reading the dialogue. I enjoy wandering around areas, but the no random encounters and the limit breaks I find are quite useful. I don't remember this when I played it the first time as a kid, but Final Fantasy VII has the innate ability to put you in a location and not tell you where to go, which is fine because it's an RPG. You're meant to discover areas and places and a direction to go. So I have no problem with that. But the problem with FF7 is that while it has a direction that it wants you to go in, sometimes the exit is not always clear on how to get to it. The art style in which they've drawn the locations and the backgrounds and stuff like that, when you're Cloud and moving around on these backgrounds, it can be a little bit convoluted and sometimes difficult in maneuvering Cloud in this situation. So that's one of my gripes about Final Fantasy VII, but honestly I don't remember that as a kid, so maybe it's just my eyes that are getting a little bit old. So with the inclusion of the constant limit breaks, I actually quite like this feature. It has been very useful to me, I will say. There have been some fights that I've come across and maybe wandered into somewhere that I haven't really supposed to be in that point of the game, and my characters aren't leveled up as much as they should have been. You have the ability to activate the constant limit break at any point during the fight or even before the fight. You can just do it in the overworld, and it will immediately put your limit break bar to max and use your limit break. And as soon as you've done that, if you still have it activated, it will just keep on doing it. It'll do it again and again until you decide that you don't want it anymore and turn it off. The other thing that's actually quite cool that comes with it is that it fills your health bar and your MP bar as well. So I will admit to this because I trust you guys completely. There have been times where my health has been low. I've come across, like I say, enemies that are probably a little bit stronger than I anticipated, and they have completely wiped me. Not to the point of death, but definitely sent my health into the yellow, and figured that I wouldn't have another chance to use a potion or something that would increase my health. So just flick the limit break on and you're back to full health. Full disclosure on this, because I have played this before, I'm not too bothered about the battles. I'm weirdly, I don't know if this is just because I've gotten older, but strangely I'm more interested in the actual storyline and the dialogue, because I know it has been a very hot minute since I last played this, so there has obviously been some dialogue that I will have forgotten or missed. So it's just nice to sit and not have to worry about dying in a fight, I guess, and concentrate, like I say, more on the story of what's happening in Final Fantasy VII. Which I was thinking about this before I started recording this podcast, and to this day I still feel like if anybody asked me to describe or explain the story of Final Fantasy VII to them, I'm not entirely sure that I would be able to. This is, I think, one of the reasons why I was paying more attention to the dialogue this time around, because I actually want to know, comprehensively know what is actually happening in Final Fantasy VII. So obviously I haven't finished this game yet. Like I say, I was paying a lot more attention to the dialogue, and from what I can gather, there is I know I'm going to get this wrong, so do apologise for any diehard Final Fantasy fans out there, which I should class myself as one of those, but I task anyone to go and find a Final Fantasy fan that can describe the storyline to any of the Final Fantasies, apart from 15, because that's the most recent one, and I haven't played it, but I'm assuming that's like the most clear. But there is an area that's called like this mythical land that is called the Promised Land, which is only accessible by a this is where I struggle, by a group of people called the Cetra, aka the Ancients. And Sephiroth, who I'm sure everyone knows because he is one of the all-time most famous bad guys I think ever, wants to get to the Promised Land, and I think he believes, or he did believe, that he was an ancient or etc. at some point, but then he finds out that he is actually a product. He's been produced, and he goes on a mass rampage. And I think he wants to get to the Promised Land so he can destroy it and take revenge. Okay, I'm now questioning myself on this, but anyway, apologies if that is completely wrong. But I'm sure the more I play it, the more it kind of comes back to me. So I will get back to you guys on this. So going back to this, after 20 some years, I think it just had an anniversary of some kind, I can't remember, however many years since I first played it. It's actually a really nice experience because, like I say, I do know what happens, so it's not like I'm going into it blind. I can take my time in certain places and, you know, rush through others if I feel like I want to, I guess. It's a really nice game actually just to sit on the Switch and kind of relax with, especially with the new abilities like with the limit break and the no random battles, random encounters anywhere. So if you just feel like exploring a little bit and just getting on with the story, it's really nice to sit and dive into for a couple of hours. And it's surprising how fast those couple of hours will go. I can't stress how much I enjoy this game. It has been an absolute favourite of mine since the first time that I played it, and spoilers, saw Ares die, and that I actually thought about this when I was playing it the other day, and I just reached Cosmo Canyon, and Cosmo Canyon has a really good a soundtrack to it, and I was thinking to myself that I know when the scene with Ares and where Sephiroth kills her comes up, it will make me cry, because it's just something that I remember experiencing the first time around, and it wasn't something I don't feel like this it had been done back then, where it was where in a video game it was customary to kill off not the main character, but definitely one of the characters that was you'd grown attached to. Because Ares you meet very early on, and she becomes part of your team, and plays a pivotal role in the game as well. So for them to for you to invest all this time and emotion into a character for her to be killed is, I think it was something that wasn't commonly done at that time. It is now. I mean, you probably reel off quite a few games where they've killed probably not the main character, but definitely one of the more prominent supporting characters. Back then, yeah, it wasn't done, I don't think. So that scene and that whole area and leading up to it, I know when it's going to happen, has just stuck with me ever since I was a kid. And the soundtrack to when Ares dies will probably be one of my most loved and probably most hated because of the emotional attachment to it as well. Pieces of music ever, I think. So that is Final Fantasy VII that I've been playing these past few weeks. If you guys haven't played a Final Fantasy, I would recommend 7. It is a lot to take on. It is a very long game. It's quite in depth as well. You might not be able to follow it the first time around. I know I didn't, which is probably why I'm playing it this time around. and taking more note of the dialogue. But this was the first one that changed the kind of format for Final Fantasies. The previous ones were very similar to, if you imagine A Link to the Past, Zelda. So that kind of not quite top down, but like 3/4 top down view with little sprites running around the screen. They were all kind of that style before. So this one took a step into a different direction and became a 3D game. So if you wanted to experience like the more old school Final Fantasies, go and check out the ones beforehand. I can't remember off the top of my head. There's one that has got like critical acclaim in the series before 7, and I can't remember which one it is. But yeah, if you guys want to check out any of the Final Fantasies, I would highly recommend it. But yeah, if you're a fan of JRPGs, go and check them out. Okay, so for those of you that are in the know with gaming news, you will have taken note that Nintendo did a Pokemon Direct this week. I'm currently recording this on the 6th, and they did it on the 5th of June. Now, I have to preface this, I'm not the world's biggest Pokemon fan, but I do like to see what Nintendo reveal in their directs. I always think it's quite interesting, regardless of what game it is. I like the format that they have. I find it fun to watch the little introductions with some of the creators, and the whole package I think is very well done from them. So like I say, I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan, but my knowledge on it is very limited, probably to the first generation. I think that's probably about all I watched when I was a kid. So apologies if I do get anything wrong. Anyway, so like I say, the Direct was on the 5th of June, and it was about 15 minutes long. Not massive, but I think 15 minutes is probably usually what they do with the Direct. So it was on par. This looks really interesting. I will say that although Pokemon is not one of my most loved games, this new game, the Sword and Shield, so there's two versions like they usually do with Pokemon, so you can get a sword or you can get the shield version. This looks really interesting because the way they presented it in the Direct, the area that you move around in looks more open world than Pokemon Let's Go. So it looks more free roaming, whereas Let's Go was you were on a map and you moved from area to area through the overworld map. They appeared to have included seasons or different weather with this world as well. So it kind of showed you like there was a sand. I don't know if there's sand area or it was just like a sandstorm that came through. I'm not too sure about that. It also included a water area where you could go and fish. I'm assuming you would go and fish for. I don't. Oh God, I don't know if you would go and fish for Pokemon or if you would go and fish for things to feed the Pokemon. I'm not entirely sure on that. If you guys know, let me know. They also showed that you can shake some of the trees as well that are dotted around the area itself. This looked like it was just to shake fruit from the trees. So I'm assuming this works like Let's Go, where you would throw like was it called a raspberry? Something to lure the Pokemon, or make the Pokemon more friendly so you could capture them. So they also showed 4 new Pokemon. Actually, I thought it was only 3, but I guess technically 5, because one of them they did show that the evolved state of it. But anyway, I thought it was only 3 at first, but actually the last one that they showed, it didn't show any kind of battle. It was revealed that it was just a taxi service. So the one that was transporting you, I guess you would say, from town to town, it's called Corviknight, so flying Pokemon. Kind of looks like a Raven, but like a bit more edgy. That's just how it is described in my head. It's very dark and stealthy looking. It looks really cool. But there was no battle sequence for that one, so it didn't show you any kind of fighting with that. It looks like it's simply just a taxi service. The first one that they showed was called Wooloo. While I like Pokemon, don't get me wrong, but some of these names I do question. But for those that haven't seen the direct, Wooloo it's basically a sheep. That's what it is, and apparently it's prized for its fur, but it's just wool. I mean, but obviously they can't say wool because then they're trying not to equate it to a sheep, where it is just practically a sheep. But I would like to see that one in battle. That should be interesting. The second one that they did was one called Gossifleur, which is a flowering type Pokemon, and they described it as having healing properties with the spores that it releases. That one looks quite cute. It does look like a flower in some aspects. The one thing that they did with this was show the evolved state to it, and it evolved into Eldegoss. And this looks like a dandelion to me. It just looks like a dandelion. I can't say anything else than that. It's like got a little stalk body kind of thing to it. And then on the top of its head is this massive afro, which is white and dotted with little seeds. And apparently the seeds, again, do have healing properties. So I'm assuming that's what Gossifleur and Eldegoss do, or as a type of Pokemon, they main in healing. The one after that was called Drednaw, which this one looked quite mean. It looked... I was trying to figure out how to describe this one to someone that hasn't seen this Pokemon, but it kind of looks like a rhino with a bear trap for a mouth, and it's got a turtle shell on its back. And that sounds weird, but it's the best way that I can describe it. They talked about its mouth and the attack. I think they classed it as a bite Pokemon, or a bite type, which, to be honest, I've not heard of before. So there's that. It did look quite vicious, and probably a good Pokemon to have on your team if you go for the very aggressive attacking type. The next thing that they covered in this was something called Dynamax. Now, to my knowledge, this is not something that has been done before. Again, forgive me if I am wrong, because my knowledge on Pokemon is not the best. But basically what this does is gives you the ability to make your Pokemon absolutely massive. Like, I'm talking like a skyscraper high. Again, if you haven't seen the direct, go and watch it, because the size of these things is incredible. It shows you a massive Raichu facing off against a Gyarados, and if you look at the little trainers down below compared to the size of these guys, it's insane. I don't know what the thinking was behind this. Maybe they just wanted something big. I don't know. But anyway, it gives you the ability to make your Pokemon huge during a battle. It will boost the power, but you can only use it once per battle. So it's not like a permanent thing. And the Pokemon will return to their normal size after 3 turns within the battle anyway. So it's not like a face-off between two huge Pokemon all the time. It does look impressive. Actually, I was quite impressed, I guess, with the visuals on it and some of the attacks. It looked really clean and bright. So it remains to be seen why they have decided to introduce this. Maybe it was just an aspect that they felt could bring something to the game. I don't know. But they've also included new gym stadiums, and they specifically said in the direct that they've designed these so they can incorporate the Dynamax. So the one that they showed in the direct had like an open roof, obviously, so if the Pokemon got so big, their head could stick out of the roof. And along with the new actually they only showed one new gym stadium. I don't know how many will be in the game. I'm assuming more than one. They showed a few new characters that would be introduced as well. So there's new trainers in there. There is he's not particularly a rival, but it's a guy called Hop. They said that he would start his journey the same time as you would, so I feel like he may be like an ally that would help you along the way, or he would just pop up every so often. So instead of having like a proper rival that you would meet, I'm kind of comparing this to Let's Go just purely because of the style, and Let's Go is just one of the games, I think probably the only game of Pokemon that I've ever really played. Yeah, sorry for comparing it to Let's Go a lot, but that's just what my knowledge is, unfortunately. Also, they've now introduced multiplayer in this. So, again, I'm curious to see how this is going to work. In the Direct, they gave an example of while you were out in the wild area, which is what they've called the kind of like free roam area, I guess. What you would do is join up with 3 or up to 3 other people, create a party, and go and fight wild roaming Pokemon with each other. I think the reason that they've done this is because it's Pokemon, for a start. I mean, it's a massive deal, it's Pokemon, so why wouldn't you want to play with your friends on it? But the battles that they've included in there, when you encounter roaming Pokemon with your friends, they're already in the Dynamax phase, so they're already huge. I was kind of thinking about this, and I would equate it to like a boss battle, I guess, and you need help from your friends. The wild Pokemon that you do actually end up fighting is in the Dynamax phase and will be throughout the battle, so it's huge constantly. It's not like the usual Dynamax, I guess, where it would revert to its normal size after 3 goes. And also, I think they stated that only one person in the party can use the Dynamax during that battle. So I think it's trying to use coordination with your friends in taking down the Pokemon. And now, the one thing, I don't know if they did mention it, I may have missed it in the Direct, but I'm curious to see who gets the Pokemon. I don't know, it could be the leader, whoever is the chosen leader of the group, who actually gets the Pokemon. Whether everyone gets the Pokemon, I doubt that will happen, or if it's randomly given. But yeah, that was one thing that kind of sprang up in my brain, like, I'm part of this group. I've just helped to take down this massive Dynamax Pokemon. What do I get for it? I'm a bit on the fence with that one. I'm wondering if it may cause a little bit of conflict, depending on how it's distributed. If it's just the party leader that gets it, then you know that you signed up for that. But anyway, the last thing that they showed on the Direct were 2 legendary Pokemon, one called Zacian and one called Zamazenta, which are really interesting names. Basically, these represent sword and shield. So Zacian had the sword, so they carried a sword in their mouth, and Zamazenta had a shield sort of design around its face. They both sort of had the look of like a lion or a tiger, you know, so like an animal that was on all 4s. And the little sequence that they had was that they would fight. They kind of fought each other, but then didn't. I don't know what the point of it was, but it was just a reveal to show you guys the legendary Pokemon, I guess. They look kind of cool. I think I'd definitely go for the sword one rather than Zamazenta with the shield, just because it's got a sword in its mouth. Which reminds me of the Dark Souls boss, and I can't remember the name of it. You know, Crunky's going to kick my butt for this. Anyway, there's a boss that is on Dark Souls that is a wolf-styled animal that carries a sword in its mouth, and you have to fight it. So that's immediately what sprang to mind when I saw this. And finally, the last thing that they showed was the launch date, which is November the 15th. So just in time for Christmas. So while Pokemon may be a few months away, do not worry, guys, because E3 is right around the corner. It does actually start next week for us peasant folks anyway. It starts on June the 11th. There's some stuff going on before then, but I think that's mainly for like industry insiders. But for us normal people, we get to see what's happening next week from the 11th to the 14th. And basically this is just kind of going to go over what sort of things we're going to expect to see. It's not going to be hugely in depth. Me and Crunky will do a definitely a more in-depth one after E3 has happened, covering hopefully some surprises and some games that have been backed up, etc. So listen out for that. That will be coming probably the week after E3 has happened, so in a couple of weeks. Firstly, Cyberpunk 2077. If you guys remember E3 last year, that was revealed. They gave a demo, an unplayable demo of the game itself, and it looked kind of cool. It did. This is from CD Projekt Red, so for those that have played The Witcher 3, you'll be familiar with. It's a first-person shooter, and kind of futuristic looking. It does look kind of cool. I think it's more RPG-y kind of, and I'm kind of looking forward to this one. There's still no release date for this, unfortunately, so I'm guessing we'll probably get to see some more footage from the game, and hopefully a hands-on playable demo. This is available for all the platforms, so excluding the Switch. But yeah, there's still no release date, like I say, so whether we will be able to play it this year, I don't know. Also, Gears of War 5, if anyone is still interested in the series of Gears of War, it's TBC this year, so I'm assuming that we'll get to see something on Gears of War 5. What's interesting about this one is that they've actually gone to a different main lead called Kate. So instead of having big muscly men, they've gone with a female lead. So it should be interesting. If you like the Gears of War series, not sure what the storyline will be with that one, but hopefully we'll get to see a bit more. This was announced in E3 2018, so last year. Maybe there'll be a playable demo of this, or at least some gameplay or more gameplay footage to be able to see this year. Also, kind of along the same series deal, I guess, Halo Infinite was also announced last year. This is only for Xbox One, actually, but this has a release date slated for 2020, so don't expect it this year. 343 Industries are taking the reins again. Not too much info on Infinite at the moment, but the Halo series I'm not opposed to. I actually quite enjoyed playing some of the games, so maybe that's one to look out for this year. Another one which some of my friends have been quite excited about is the new Star Wars game, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This is released this year. It's actually got a release date for November 15th, and it's on all platforms. I can't say I've ever played... Oh, wait, no, the only Star Wars game I've ever played is Battlefront, and I don't think you can really class that as a Star Wars game, I guess. It's just a battle royale, I guess. Another one, Watch Dogs Legion. This is from Ubisoft, and apparently they had this leaked, so rip Ubisoft. This is... it has a release date for this year, but no month as yet, and again, it's available on all platforms. Watch Dogs, I think, is one of those games that has kind of flown under the radar. I think they at the core, they're actually quite good games, but not many people have played them, unfortunately. I haven't played them myself, which is probably something I should do. I've seen gameplay of it, I've seen people stream it and YouTube videos on it, and they do look like really fun games. It remains to be seen what Legion will bring to the table in terms of the Watch Dogs series. Like I say, this is TBC this year, so I'm hoping that there will be something this time from Ubisoft. The next one that I'm actually quite excited about, really, is a game called Session, and I'd not heard of this before. But it's kind of being described as a successor to Skate. So think Tony Hawk's skateboarding, that kind of game. And it's been a very long time since I played a very good skating game. And I do enjoy them. I remember playing Skate when I was a kid. And I remember playing Tony Hawk's when I was a kid. And I really enjoyed them. I haven't seen too much on this, but this again is slated for release for this year, so hopefully there should be something at E3. However, this is an exclusive. It's only available on PC and on Xbox, so apologies, unfortunately, to PlayStation owners. You're not going to get to play this one unless you have a PC. Another big one, which I know a lot of people are dying to see, is Animal Crossing. This was kind of teased last year, around about the September time, and Nintendo specifically did a little video with Tom Nook saying that something is coming, and it's got a release date for this year. So I guess this might be towards the end of 2019, probably the fourth quarter at least, with there not being too much information about it. But this is Nintendo. We know how they work, guys. They keep their cards close to their chest. So it could come out next week for all we know. It could be released at E3, but that's just Nintendo. Animal Crossing is not something that I've ever been really hyped about. I don't think I've ever particularly played an Animal Crossing, but I know a lot of people out there that are hardcore Nintendo fans, and they have been waiting for this for a very long time. So hopefully we'll be able to see something with Nintendo's conference at E3. Ooh, one that I am actually really excited for is Luigi's Mansion 3. Now, Luigi's Mansion I've never actually had privilege to play because I never owned... Was it the 3DS I think it was released for? But I've always wanted to play Luigi's Mansion, but I've never had the chance to do it. So with the release of Luigi's Mansion 3, I will definitely be picking this up. This doesn't have a release date, but it is supposed to be released this year. So again, maybe look out for probably quarter 3 for this release. I'm excited about this one. I think it might be really cool. Obviously, with it being Nintendo, it's only on the Switch. So the big one that has been announced earlier this year, Borderlands 3. This I am, again, excited for. This is coming out in September 13th this year, so this is right before my birthday. Hint, if anybody wants to buy me it. So this is the third installation of the series. I guess, canonically, because there have been, Tales of Borderland and the pre-sequel, but I'm just going to disregard them for the time being. This looks really fun. Borderlands is always a fun game to play anyway, and it's a multiplayer as well, obviously, with it being Borderlands. If, again, you haven't seen any of the gameplay or the announcement trailers, go and do so, because some of actually all of the new Vault Hunters look so cool, and I will definitely be playing this with some friends online. And I think as far as E3 speculation goes, I think that's pretty much it. There are some in there that I haven't covered, purely because they don't particularly interest me. I'll probably take note of them if and when they do get covered in the conferences, but apart from that, I think that's pretty much it, guys. I'm very excited for E3 this year, as I always am every year. I'm looking forward to all the different announcements, all the unsurprising, all the surprising reveals that the companies will be showing. Hopefully, a lot of my time will be concentrated on Mario Maker 2, and the invitational that is there, and hopefully seeing some actual gameplay from Mario Maker 2 as well. So if you guys want to let either me or Crunky know what you guys are excited for at E3, if there's anything that you hope to see, let us know. You can contact me. I am on Twitter. I am at cherrycake518, and I will be making my return to Twitch at the end of this month when Mario Maker 2 is released. And if you want to catch me on there, that is twitch.tv/cherrycaketv. But until next time, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this solo podcast. Sorry if I rambled a little bit. I do tend to get that when I start getting into things. But like I say, this is not the usual format. This will probably only be a one-off until Crunky gets back. But until then, guys, catch us probably next week. And we will have some more E3 reactions to what's been released and revealed. But until then, guys, thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you soon.